Hi, Robert Marshall here for Marshall Racing. In this video, we're going to show you the Classic Performance Products mini subframe coilover front suspension for the 67 Mustang. Once you remove your cotter pins and your nuts off your upper and lower ball joints, you can use a fork to remove them, like we did here on the tie rod end. As you can see here, we had the coil spring removed and the spindle removed. We're not going to need all this stuff here, so we're going to take this off. One thing we did find out, as you can see, the bushings is wore out right here. Next, we're going to remove the strut rod brace with these two nuts on the bottom side here. We'll remove the end there, then we'll remove the lower control arm after we remove the sway bar, and then we'll get to removing the spot welds and removing the strut rod support brace off the frame. Alright, here we are with the front bottom plate mocked up with the control arms on. It is flush with the outside frame on both sides. What we did, we took the vice grips and clamped it up smooth to the frame, got it all lined up. Then we started with the smaller drill bit and then went to the bigger drill bit to drill the holes. I wanted to really show you this because all the videos I've seen when I was ordering this kit just showed bolting to the frame, and I didn't realize this is how they bolt. But if you look here on the lip of your frame here, is this thin lip is all that the bolt's coming through. On this back side you got two, and you'll have a sandwich plate, and then there's one on the inside that actually goes to a pretty good bracket where your sway bar is connected to. That's actually a big thing. Here's the sandwich bracket that sandwiches the top. We did have to grind part of the edge down because it was wide and was cocking the bolts in there at an angle, so we grinded it down on one side till it fit and lined up. So we'll show you how that works. So that goes in there like that. And then you put your washer, lock washer, and nut on the bottom and tighten them up. After getting this kit and seeing how that part bolts on, I believe I'm going to end up grinding some of the powder coat off of this at certain points underneath the frame there, and then probably once everything's bolted up and I get to the alignment shop, make sure everything's lined up, and I'm going to throw some weld, and it's going to become a permanent fixture because I didn't realize that just pinched on that little part of that outside lip, and that's one thing I do not like now that I got this kit. But we'll put some good weld on it and make it more sturdy than just bolting it in. Here we are on the front part of the main bracket on the bottom. As you can see, we done got our holes drilled. We used the bracket as a template. Start off with a smaller drill bit again, going to the bigger drill bit. Here's one of their sandwich brackets. So all this ends up doing is going down through, and you bolt and nut from the bottom. In the frame here, and here is the other two. There's two, one here, one there. Sandwiches down at the bracket, sandwich down the bracket. Over here is the third bolt I was talking about earlier. It comes through into your sway bar bracket. So you get two sandwiched on that thin lip on the outside, one on the sway bar bracket. The front sandwiched down here, and two little smaller brackets in here. Alright, here we are with the main cross member bolted in. This is the sandwiches we was discussing. Everything's bolted in tight, torqued down to specs. You can see that's the bottom view of it on the car. Now we're getting ready to put on the lower control arm. I'll lay it down here so I can get a better view of it. Here's your lower control arm bolts they send with the kit. Notice they do have the adjustments for your adjustment in and out on your control arm. When you put these on, they want it set up just like this. Bolt, your adjuster, your washer. It'll come through the other side, and then you'll have a washer, which I just took this off where we had it mocked up. But you had your washer, your plate, and then you have your lock nut on the outside of your washer, and then your nut. You'll tighten it down to torque specs. When we done the mock-up, we inserted the control arm into the main bracket, and we connected it to the lower support bracket, and that's what we used. Like the paper says, these here should be on the flush with the outside of the frame, but we also had the control arm in, and it was tight on this. With everything tight on both sides, you could still move it a tad back and forth to get it level on both sides, which helped the alignment of the bottom plate. Once we got all that in line, made sure the control arm would still move up and down. We vice gripped everything down, and that's when we took and used that bottom plate as a template where to drill all the holes. Then we got all the holes drilled. We put the bolts in and lightly tightened them up, and still made sure everything was able to freely move up and down. Then we took everything back apart, and then we put the main plate on and tightened everything down to torque specs. Now we're back to the control arm. With the control arm, they just simply slide into place into the brackets. I'm doing this with one hand, so a rubber hammer, since they're tight, can be used to tap. If you don't mind scuffing your powder coating, you can use any kind of hammer you want, but I use a rubber hammer to tap this into place to line the bolt holes up, and then you just put your bolts in, torque them to specs. Once everything's in, I'll take it to a alignment shop, and they will use these bolts to adjust the camber and caster and everything on the car. I'm doing this one hand, so I'm going to set this down and install the control arm.